Kim Tae-ho sat in the cold metal chair and tried not to show his anger. The Galactic Council chamber was huge, with seats arranged in circles that went up to the ceiling. Each alien species had their own section, marked by strange symbols and glowing lights. The human section was small, just 12 seats in the corner where nobody paid attention to them. He had been Earth's main speaker to the Council for 10 years. 10 long years of being ignored, laughed at, and treated like a child. The other aliens always said humans were too young, too wild, too dangerous to have real power in the galaxy. They said humans needed to learn patience and wisdom before they could be trusted with important decisions. Park Hae-won sat next to him, holding a datapad with shaking hands. She was young for a diplomat, only 35, but she was the smartest person Tae-ho knew. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes were red from staying up all night working on their presentation. She had found something terrible, and today they were going to tell the Council about it. The Council chamber buzzed with the sounds of different alien languages. The ethereal collective floated in their glass containers filled with purple gas. They were the oldest species in the galaxy, existing for millions of years as energy beings. Everyone said they were the wisest, so their votes counted more than others. The Kraxan soldiers stood at attention in their black armor, weapons always ready. They were the galaxy's police force, keeping order wherever the Council sent them. Near the center sat the Zephyrian traders in their fancy robes, counting profits on their golden devices. They sold everything to everyone and claimed to be neutral in all conflicts. The Vorthon Empire delegates wore their usual red and black uniforms, looking proud and arrogant as always. Dozens of other species filled the remaining seats, all of them older and supposedly wiser than humanity. "Order, order," called the Council speaker, a tall ethereal whose voice echoed from speakers around the room. "Today we hear from the human delegation regarding—" What was the topic again? Tae-ho stood up slowly. Even after 10 years, he still felt small in this place. "We request urgent action regarding crimes against innocent species in the Outer Rim territories." Several aliens made dismissive sounds. A Kraxan officer laughed, the sound like metal scraping metal. "More human drama," someone whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. Hae-won activated the main display screen. Images appeared showing destroyed planets, burned cities, and worse things that made even the hardened diplomats look away. "These are recent photos from the Outer Rim," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. 7 species have been completely wiped out in the last 2 years. 3 more are currently under attack. The images changed to show Vorthon ships attacking a peaceful planet. Small beings ran in terror as energy weapons burned everything around them. Children cried for their parents who would never come home. "We have proof," Hae-won continued, "that the Vorthon Empire is behind these attacks. They are capturing survivors and selling them as slaves in hidden markets. They are stealing resources and destroying entire cultures for profit." The Vorthon delegate stood up, his purple skin flushing darker with anger. "This is impossible. The Empire follows all council laws. These humans make false claims to cause trouble." "The evidence is clear," Tae-ho said firmly. "Ship records, communication intercepts, survivor testimony. The Vorthon Empire is committing genocide, and the Council must act now to stop it." The ethereal speaker's voice filled the chamber again. "These are serious claims. We will need time to study this evidence carefully. The Council will form a committee to investigate these matters over the next few years." "Years?" Hae-won stepped forward. "People are dying right now. Every day we wait, more innocent beings are murdered or enslaved." A Kraxan commander spoke up. "Humans always want to rush into war. This is why they cannot be trusted with important decisions. Peace requires patience and careful thought." "We're not asking for war," Tae-ho replied. "We're asking for justice. These crimes are happening in Council space, under Council protection. If we don't act, we're saying that genocide is acceptable as long as nobody important complains." The Zephyrian trade leader adjusted his golden robes and spoke in a bored voice. "The Outer Rim territories are far from main trade routes. Any disturbances there have minimal impact on galactic commerce. Perhaps these species should have been stronger if they wanted to survive." Anger flashed in Tae-ho's eyes. Are you saying they deserve to die because they were peaceful? I'm saying, the galaxy is a dangerous place. The strong survive, the weak become history. This is natural law. The council erupted in discussions, with different species arguing in their own languages. Some supported the human evidence, but they were few, and their voices were quiet. Most seemed bored or annoyed that their time was being wasted on such matters. Lee Min-ho's image appeared on Tai-Ho's personal communicator. Earth's fleet admiral looked tired and frustrated. "I'm watching the broadcast from Earth," he said quietly so only Tai-Ho could hear. "Our patrol ships in the Outer Rim confirm everything Haiwan presented. The situation is even worse than we thought." "Can you send more ships to help?" Tai-Ho whispered back. "That's the problem. The Council voted last month to limit human military operations. We can only patrol 3 systems now, and we need permission for any combat action. By the time we get approval, the attacks are over, and the evidence is destroyed." The speaker called for attention again. "The Council has reviewed the human evidence. While concerning, these claims require extensive investigation. We cannot take hasty action based on incomplete information." "It's not incomplete," Haiwan protested. "We have everything you need to verify these crimes." "Nevertheless," the speaker continued, "the Council votes to table this matter pending a full committee review. Expected completion time is 18 to 24 months. Tai-Ho felt something break inside him. 24 months while more species died. 24 months while the Vorthan Empire grew stronger and bolder. 24 months while the Council pretended to care about justice. But the worst was yet to come. A new item appeared on the Council agenda, and Tai-Ho's blood turned cold as he read it. Motion 847B, the speaker announced. Restrictions on human territorial expansion due to aggressive colonization patterns. The Kraxon commander, who had laughed earlier, stood up with a thick document. The human empire has expanded to 47 systems in the last 50 years. This rate of growth is unprecedented and dangerous. Humans plant colonies without proper council oversight and establish military bases without permission. Those bases protect trade routes and defend against pirates, Tai-Ho said, standing again. "We've kept the shipping lanes safe for everyone." "You've militarized space that should be peaceful," the Kraxon replied. "The Council did not ask for human protection." Images appeared on the main screen showing human colonies and space stations. They looked small and fragile compared to the massive alien megastructures, but they were growing fast and spreading across the galaxy. "Humans reproduce too quickly," added a Vorthon voice. "They build too fast, expand too far, and ask too few questions. This growth threatens the established order." The ethereal speaker's voice remained calm and neutral. "The Council recognizes that human expansion has been enthusiastic. For the stability of the galaxy, we propose limiting human territory to their current 3 core systems. All other colonies will be transferred to Council administration within 5 years. The words hit Tai-Ho like a physical blow. 3 systems. Humanity controlled 47 worlds, home to 12 billion people, and the Council wanted to squeeze them into 3 small systems around Earth. "This is impossible," he said, his voice getting louder. "You're talking about forcing billions of people to abandon their homes. Many of our colonies are generations old. These people have never even seen Earth. They can relocate to the approved systems," the Kraxon commander said with a shrug. "Or they can renounce their human citizenship and accept Council governance." Haiwan looked at her data pad, her face pale. "The approved systems can't support that many people. Even with our best technology, we could maybe house 4 billion in those 3 systems. What about the other 8 billion? "That is a human problem to solve," the Vorthon delegate said with a cold smile. "Perhaps you should have thought about overpopulation before expanding so aggressively." The vote was swift and brutal. Species after species voted to restrict human expansion. Even the Zephyrians, who had profited greatly from human trade, abstained rather than support their partners. In the end, only 2 minor species voted with humanity, and their votes meant almost nothing in Council politics. "Motion 847B passes," the speaker announced. "Human territorial restrictions will take effect in 6 months. This session is adjourned." Tai-Ho sat in stunned silence as aliens filed out of the chamber, already discussing their next profitable ventures or military campaigns. Nobody seemed to care that they had just sentenced billions of humans to homelessness while ignoring genocide in the Outer Rim. Min-ho's face appeared on the communicator again. his expression grim. "I heard everything. What are your orders?" Taeho looked around the empty chamber one last time. Captain Yoon Sora stood on the bridge of the transport ship New Hope and watched a sight that broke her heart. Below them, the human colony of New Busan was being abandoned. Families loaded their belongings onto trucks and headed for the spaceport. Children cried as they left the only homes they had ever known. "How many ships do we have in the evacuation fleet?" she asked her first officer. 2,037, Captain. Everything from cargo haulers to luxury liners, even some old mining ships that barely have life support. Sora nodded grimly. It had been 6 months since Earth withdrew from the Galactic Council, and the evacuation was finally beginning. The Council had demanded that humans leave 44 of their 47 systems. Rather than fight a war they couldn't win, Earth's government had chosen something nobody expected. They would leave everything behind. "Captain." Her communications officer called out, "Message from Admiral Lee Minho." Minho's tired face appeared on the main screen. He looked like he had aged 10 years in the last 6 months. "Captain Yoon, how is the evacuation proceeding?" "Ahead of schedule, sir. The colonists are cooperating fully. Nobody wants to stay under council rule. Good. I have new orders for you. After you finish at New Busan, take your fleet to the Kepler colonies. Intelligence reports suggest the Council is planning to seize our industrial facilities there before we can dismantle them." Sora felt her jaw tighten. "Are they trying to steal our technology?" "It appears so. Dr. Choi's research team discovered something interesting when they analyzed Council technical standards. It seems our safety regulations were designed to slow us down, not protect us." The screen split to show Dr. Choi Jae-min, Earth's leading expert on alien technology. His usually neat appearance was disheveled, and his eyes were bright with excitement and anger. "Captain Yoon," Dr. Choi said quickly, "we've been living under artificial restrictions for 50 years. The Council claimed our technology was dangerous and needed to be controlled. But the truth is much worse." "What do you mean?" Sora asked. "Every piece of human technology had to be approved by Council standards. Our weapons were limited to certain power levels. Our shields had to use Council-compatible frequencies. Our ships could only use approved FTL systems that connected to Council jump gates." "That doesn't sound unreasonable," Sora's first officer said. Dr. Choi laughed bitterly. "It would be reasonable if the standards were really about safety. But they weren't. They were about control. Our original fusion reactors were 20% more efficient than Council designs, so they made us add limiters. Our hull materials were stronger, so they required us to use weaker composites for standardization." The implications hit Sora like a punch to the stomach. "They've been deliberately holding us back." "For 50 years, Dr. Choi confirmed. "But now that we're leaving Council space, those restrictions don't apply anymore. Engineer Kang Yu-jin has a prototype FTL drive that doesn't need jump gates at all. It's faster, more efficient, and completely independent of Council infrastructure." Admiral Minho leaned forward. "How much faster?" "We could cross the galaxy in months instead of years. And more importantly, we could reach areas the Council has never explored. There's a whole universe out there beyond their territory." Sora felt hope stir in her chest for the first time in months. "When will it be ready for fleet deployment?" Kang says 6 weeks for the first production models, 3 months to retrofit. "The entire evacuation fleet." "Make it happen," Minho ordered. "In the meantime, continue the evacuation. Every human who wants to leave Council space will have that opportunity." The transmission ended, and Sora turned back to watching the colony below. But now the sight didn't seem quite so heartbreaking. These people weren't losing their homes. They were gaining their freedom. 3 weeks later, the first signs of Council panic began to appear. Ambassador Lim Da-un of the peaceful Quillen species sent a desperate message to every human colony she could reach. Sora was at the Kepler system, overseeing the dismantling of a major shipyard, when the message arrived. Da-eun's image was shaky and filled with static. Her usually calm blue features were twisted with fear. "Please, any humans who receive this message, we need help. The Vorthan Empire has attacked our home system. They came without warning, without provocation. Our defense satellites were destroyed in the first hour." The image switched to show scenes of destruction. Vorthan warships, painted in their traditional red and black, fired energy weapons at defenseless cities. Quillen families ran through, burning streets, carrying whatever they could save. We sent requests for help to the Council. They said they would investigate and consider appropriate measures. That was 3 days ago. The Vorthons are still attacking. They're taking prisoners, loading them onto slave ships. Dayun's image returned, tears streaming down her face. My people are dying. The Council talks about procedures and proper channels while our children are murdered. I know humans are leaving, but please, is there nothing you can do? Sora felt sick. The Quillans were gentle artists and philosophers who had never hurt anyone. Their greatest weapons were poetry and music. They couldn't defend themselves against the Vorthon war machine. She opened a communication channel to the nearest human patrol ship. Captain Namho Seok appeared on her screen, his expression grim. You saw the message too? We have to help them. Sora said immediately, I agree, but our orders are to evacuate, not fight. Admiral Minho was very clear about avoiding conflicts with Council species. The Vorthons aren't defending the Council. They're murdering innocent people. Nam Hoseok was quiet for a moment. My ship is 2 days from the Quillan system. If I happened to be conducting a routine patrol and encountered pirates attacking civilians. Pirates are a threat to shipping, Sora agreed. It would be your duty to investigate. Exactly. And if these pirates happen to be using ships that look like Vorthon vessels, well, criminals steal military equipment all the time. 8 hours later, Nam Hoseok's ship arrived at the Quillan homeworld to find the attack still in progress. 3 Vorthon cruisers were bombarding the planet while transport ships loaded terrified prisoners. The Vorthons didn't even bother to scan for approaching vessels. They assumed no one would dare interfere. They were wrong. The human patrol ship opened fire without warning, its weapons cutting through Vorthon shields like paper. The lead cruiser exploded in seconds. The other 2 tried to run, but human engines were faster and human gunners were better trained. Within 30 minutes, all 3 Vorthon ships were destroyed. Nam Hoseok opened a channel to the planet. This is Captain Nam Hoseok of the Human Vessel Defender. Are there any Quillan authorities available? Ambassador Lim Da-Yun's face appeared on his screen, her expression shocked and grateful. Captain, you came, but I thought humans were leaving Council space. We are, Nam Hoseok replied. But we don't abandon friends in trouble. Are your people safe? Many are hurt, but you saved thousands of lives. How can we ever repay you? Nam Hoseok smiled grimly. No payment necessary, but you might want to consider leaving Council space yourself. Things are going to get worse before they get better. News of the Quillan rescue spread quickly through both human and alien communication networks. The Council was furious that humans had attacked a Council member species, even to save innocents. They demanded that Nam Hoseok be arrested and tried for war crimes. Admiral Minho's response was simple and direct. He promoted Nam Hoseok to captain of the fleet and gave him command of a new unit called the Ranger Corps. Their mission was to protect refugees and evacuate any species that wanted to leave Council space. Let the Council complain, Minho told his staff. We're not in their jurisdiction anymore. Meanwhile, engineer Kong Yu-jin was working 18-hour days to complete the new FTL drive. Her workshop on the shipyard was filled with the sound of welding and the smell of hot metal. She had barely slept in weeks, surviving on coffee and determination. The test results are perfect, she told Dr. Choi during one of their daily briefings. Range is unlimited as long as we have fuel. Speed is 3 times faster than Council. Jump gates. And best of all, they can't track us. How is that possible? Council FTL technology relies on artificial wormholes that connect to their gate network. Every jump is logged and monitored. Our new drives create temporary spatial folds that don't leave any trace. We can appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Dr. Choi grinned. The Council has always controlled galactic travel by controlling the jump gates. If we can bypass their network entirely, we become completely independent. Kang finished. No more restrictions, no more monitoring, no more control. The first ships equipped with the new drives began leaving Council space. 2 months later, instead of heading for the approved human systems, they jumped toward the galactic rim, far beyond Council territory. Long-range sensors had detected habitable systems in areas that Council species had never explored. Captain Kim Suho commanded the scout ship Pioneer as it made the first jump into unknown space. The sensation was different from using council gates. Instead of the harsh jolt and disorientation of passing through a wormhole, the new drive felt smooth and natural. Jump. Complete, his navigator reported. We are now 15,000 light-years beyond the edge of council space. General Bei Sung-ho stood in the command center of New Seoul, humanity's new capital city built on a planet far beyond council space. The walls were covered with displays showing information from across the galaxy. Most of the news was bad. General, his aide called out, "We're receiving another refugee transmission." The main screen showed a desperate alien face covered in burns. The creature's 4 eyes were filled with terror as explosions flashed in the background. "This is Elder Korth of the Peaceful Assembly. The Kraxan hegemony has begun the purification of our system. They say we are inferior beings who waste valuable resources. Please, anyone who can hear this, remember that we existed. Remember that we were here." The transmission cut to static. Another species was dying while the council debated proper procedures. Sung-ho turned to the intelligence officer at the nearest console. "How many is that this week?" 14 confirmed extinctions, sir. 3 more species under active attack. The Vorthon Empire alone has wiped out over 30 civilizations in the past 2 years. 2 years since humanity left the council. 2 years of watching the galaxy tear itself apart. Sung-ho walked to the large map that showed the current state of galactic civilization. Red zones marked areas under Vorthon control. Black zones showed systems where the Kraxan hegemony had completed their purification campaigns. Purple areas belonged to the ethereal collective, who were harvesting the life energy of entire worlds to extend their already ancient existence. Only small patches of green remained, marking systems still under nominal council protection. But even those were shrinking every day. "Sir," another officer reported, "we have an update from the Ranger Corps. Captain Nam Ho-seok rescued another refugee convoy, but he reports the situation is getting worse." The screen switched to show Nam Ho-seok's weathered face. He looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes and stress lines around his mouth. Behind him, the bridge of his ship buzzed with activity as his crew worked to coordinate rescue operations. "General Bei, we pulled 8,000 survivors out of the Harmony system before the Vorthons finished their harvest, but we were too late to save the other 2 million inhabitants." "Harvest?" Sung-ho asked grimly. "That's what they're calling it now. The Vorthons don't just kill people anymore. They use some kind of energy extraction device to drain the life force from entire populations. Then they feed that energy to their war machines." Sung-ho felt sick. When humanity was in the council, the Vorthons had been aggressive, but they followed certain rules. Now they had become something far worse than simple conquerors. "There's more, sir," Nam Ho-seok continued. "The refugees are reporting that the council species aren't just ignoring these atrocities. Some of them are actively participating." "Explain." "The Zephyrian Commonwealth is selling the Vorthans targeting data for peaceful worlds. They're making huge profits by identifying which systems have the most life energy to harvest. The Kraxan hegemony has started renting out their military services to anyone willing to pay. Even the ethereal collective is buying slaves from the Vorthans to use in their life extension experiments." Sung-ho closed his eyes and tried to control his anger. These were the same species that had lectured humanity about being too aggressive, too violent, too dangerous for galactic civilization. Dr. Jeon Mi-young entered the command center, carrying a data tablet and looking pale. She was the lead analyst studying the collapse of galactic civilization, and her reports were always grim. "General, I've completed the latest projection analysis. You're not going to like the results. Tell me, at the current rate of expansion and genocide, the Vorthon Empire will control 60% of former council space within 1 year. The Kraxan hegemony is systematically exterminating every species they consider inferior, which apparently means everyone except themselves and their allies." She activated her tablet, and graphs appeared on the main display. The lines showing galactic population levels dropped sharply over the past 2 years and continued falling into the future. Conservative estimates suggest that within 5 years, total galactic population will be reduced by 75%. Within 10 years, only the major predator species will remain, plus whatever slaves they keep for labor. What about resistance movements? There are some, but they're poorly organized and under-equipped. Most peaceful species never developed military technology. They depended on council protection that no longer exists. Sung-ho studied the data with growing horror. Billions of sentient beings were dying, and the galaxy was collapsing into barbarism. The worst part was that everyone had seen it coming except the council itself. "Sir," his communication officer called out, "priority message from the Ranger Corp. It's marked urgent." Colonel Oh Soo-jin's image appeared on a side screen. She was broadcasting from a hidden base somewhere in council space, gathering intelligence on enemy movements. Her short black hair was messy, and her face was streaked with dirt and fatigue. "General, I've intercepted communications that change everything. The council isn't ignoring these atrocities because they're incompetent. They're ignoring them because they planned this." "What do you mean?" "I accessed the Ethereal Collective's private archives. For the past 50 years, they've been conducting secret studies on what they call galactic optimization. They concluded that the galaxy is overpopulated with inferior species that consume resources without contributing value." The blood drained from Sung-ho's face. "Are you saying this is intentional?" "The evidence is clear. The Council's elder species see this as a solution to overpopulation. They're letting the aggressive species do their dirty work, eliminating the weak while wearing themselves out in constant warfare. When the killing stops, the survivors will be easier to control." "And humanity?" "We were their attack dog. When the peaceful species complained about injustice, we fought for them. When pirates threatened trade routes, we patrolled them. When genocidal empires got too bold, we stopped them. We did all the dirty work while the Council maintained their image as wise and peaceful leaders." Sung-ho understood now why the Council had been so dismissive of human concerns. They had never intended to stop the Vorthan Empire. They had just wanted humanity to do it quietly without disturbing their comfortable illusion of civilization. "There's more," Soo-jin continued. "I found records of their discussions after we left. Some council members wanted to negotiate our return, but the Ethereal Collective convinced them that our departure was actually beneficial. Quote, without the humans' primitive sense of justice interfering, natural selection can proceed as intended." The command center fell silent, except for the hum of computers and the distant sound of construction as refugees built new homes on the planet's surface. Everyone was processing the implications of what they had just heard. The galaxy's most ancient and supposedly wise species had engineered the current genocide. They had used humanity as unwitting enforcers of a peace that was never meant to last. When humans became inconvenient, they had driven them away and allowed chaos to return. "General?" Captain Kim Soo-ho's voice came from another communication channel. "We're receiving multiple distress calls from the Outer Rim. It sounds like the situation is deteriorating rapidly." "Put them through." The main screen filled with a palky grid of desperate faces, aliens of dozens of species, all pleading for help that would never come. "The harvest ships are in our system," one voice cried. "They're draining our star to power their weapons." "The purifiers landed on our homeworld an hour ago," another reported. "They're killing everyone over the age of 10. They say children can be reprogrammed to serve the hegemony." "We're the last survivors of the singing forests," a third voice whispered. "Our entire species has been wiped out except for our ship. Is there anywhere safe in the galaxy?" Sung-ho listened to the pleas and felt something harden in his chest. These beings were dying because humanity had followed the rules played by the Council's game and trusted in a system that was designed to fail. "Patch me through to Admiral Song Ki-tae," he ordered. Admiral Song appeared on a private channel. He was humanity's top military commander, currently overseeing the construction of new warships in the hidden shipyards beyond Council space. "General, I assume you've seen the latest intelligence reports?" "All of them." "How long until our new fleet is operational?" "The first wave of ships will be ready in 8 months, full battle capability in 18 months. But, sir, even with our technological advantages, we'll be vastly outnumbered. The Vorthan Empire alone has over 10,000 warships." "Numbers aren't everything. The Council species have grown soft and complacent. They've forgotten how to fight. Real wars against determined enemies." "That may be true, but they still have massive industrial capacity and billions of soldiers. A direct confrontation would be suicide." Seung-ho looked at the displays showing refugee ships fleeing from burning worlds. Human ranger vessels were scattered across the galaxy, saving whoever they could. But there were too many disasters and not enough ships. "Admiral," How many species have asked to join us in exile? Last count was 47. Most are small populations, refugees from destroyed worlds. But they bring knowledge, skills, and motivation. The shipbuilding crews include brilliant engineers from a dozen different species. Fleet Admiral Song Ki-tae floated in zero gravity as he watched the final preparations for humanity's return to Council space. Around him, the hidden shipyards buzzed with activity as workers from dozens of species put finishing touches on the largest war fleet in galactic history. The ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 4 years of unrestricted technological development had produced vessels that combined human innovation with knowledge from refugee species. The hulls were made from materials that could absorb energy weapons. The engines used improved versions of humanity's new FTL drives. The weapons were something entirely new. "Admiral," Dr. An Ye-jin called from the weapons testing facility. "The quantum displacement cannons are ready for your inspection." Song pushed off from the observation deck and floated through the connecting tunnel to An's laboratory. The weapons scientist was a small woman with intense eyes and hands, stained from working with exotic metals. She had been developing new weapon systems since the day humanity left Council space. "Show me," Song said simply. An activated a holographic display showing a test asteroid in empty space. Conventional energy weapons work by delivering force to a target. Shields can absorb or deflect that force. Armor can spread it out over a larger area. She pressed a button, and the asteroid suddenly disappeared. Not destroyed or blown apart, but simply gone as if it had never existed. Quantum displacement weapons don't deliver force. They temporarily shift the target's quantum state, causing it to exist in a different dimensional space. To the rest of the universe, the target ceases to exist. Song stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been. How long does the effect last? Permanently. The target is shifted to a pocket dimension where time moves differently. From their perspective, they experience microseconds while years pass in normal space. Can this effect be reversed? Theoretically, yes, but it would require technology that doesn't exist yet. Even if someone figured out how to reverse it, the targets would emerge in the same condition they were in when displaced. Song felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a way to erase enemies from existence without technically killing them. The moral implications were staggering, but so was the tactical advantage. How many ships can we equip with these? Weapons? All of them, sir. The power requirements are actually lower than traditional energy weapons because we're not fighting against shields or armor. We're just changing the target's quantum signature. Commander Ryu Dong-wook entered the laboratory wearing one of the new battle suits that had been developed for human ground forces. The armor was sleek and black, covering him from head to toe with smooth curves that made him look more like a machine than a person. "Admiral," Ryu said, his voice slightly distorted, "by the suit systems. The final field tests are complete. These suits allow individual soldiers to fight entire enemy armies." He gestured, and his suit's weapon systems activated. Energy projectors emerged from his arms, a shield generator created a protective barrier around him, and sensor arrays gave him awareness of everything within a kilometer radius. The suit enhances strength by a factor of 50, provides complete environmental protection, and includes a personal teleportation system for tactical movement. One soldier wearing this suit can defeat a company of traditional infantry. Song nodded approvingly. "How many do we have?" 50,000, with production continuing. "Every human marine will be equipped with these suits before we begin operations." The preparations were nearly complete, but Song knew that military might alone wouldn't be enough. Intelligence Director Han Bo-ra had spent 4 years building a network of resistance cells throughout Council space. When humanity returned, they wouldn't be fighting alone. "Admiral Song," a communication officer called out. "Priority message from Intelligence Director Han." Han Bo-ra's image appeared on the laboratory's main screen. She was broadcasting from a hidden base somewhere in the Kraxon territories, her face partially obscured by shadows to protect her identity. "Admiral, the resistance networks are in position. We have active cells in over 300 systems, including key military and industrial targets. The oppressed species are ready to rise up when you give the signal." "What's the current situation in Council space?" "Worse than ever. The Vorthon Empire now controls 45% of former Council territory. They've perfected their harvesting technology and are draining entire star systems to power their war machine. The Kraxan hegemony has completed the purification of 18 species and is targeting 12 more. Han's expression darkened. But the worst discovery is what the Ethereal Collective has been doing. They've been harvesting the life force from refugee camps, claiming it's necessary for administrative processing. Millions of displaced beings have been murdered to extend the lives of beings who were already immortal. Song felt his anger building. The galaxy's supposed wisest species had become parasites feeding on the suffering of others. There's more, sir. Captain Kim Suho's reconnaissance mission returned with footage you need to see. The screen changed to show Suho's weathered face. The scout captain looked haunted by whatever he had discovered during his secret mission back to Council space. Admiral, I infiltrated the Nexus Prime station where the old Council chambers are located. What I found there... Suho paused, struggling with his emotions. They've turned our old embassy into a museum. The image switched to show the interior of what had once been humanity's diplomatic offices. Display cases now held artifacts labeled as evidence of human aggression and barbarism. Fake documents claimed that humans had been planning to conquer the galaxy before the wise council stopped them. They're rewriting history, Suho continued. According to their exhibits, humans were a disease that threatened galactic civilization. Our departure is celebrated as the Great Cleansing that saved the universe from human violence. The final image was the most insulting of all. A statue stood in the center of the museum showing an ethereal collective member crushing a human figure beneath its foot. The plaque read, "Victory of Wisdom over Barbarism." Song had seen enough. Director Han, how soon can your resistance cells be ready for coordinated action? 72 hours, sir. But once we begin, there's no hiding our involvement. The Council will know that humanity has returned. Good. I want them to know. Signal all fleet commanders to prepare for Operation Reckoning. We launch in 3 days. The communication ended, and Song turned to address the scientists and officers who had gathered in the laboratory. These people had worked tirelessly for 4 years to prepare for this moment. The Council chose to believe that humanity was the problem, he said quietly. They convinced themselves that we were too violent, too aggressive, too dangerous for their peaceful galaxy. They were right about one thing. We are dangerous, but only to those who prey on the innocent. He looked at each face in turn, seeing determination and resolve in their eyes. In 72 hours, we returned to Council space. Not as diplomats or traitors, but as liberators. Every species that has suffered under Council rule will know that humanity has come back. Every tyrant who has profited from genocide will face justice. Dr. Ahn raised her hand. Admiral, what are our rules of engagement? Simple. Any military force that surrenders will be spared. Any civilian population will be protected. Any leader who has participated in genocide will be arrested for trial. Song's voice hardened. Any force that continues to resist or harm innocents will be erased from existence. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Humanity was not returning as conquerors, but they were returning with the power to reshape the galaxy by force if necessary. Sir, Commander Ryu asked, what about the Council species who claim they were just following orders or maintaining neutrality? There is no neutrality when genocide is happening in front of you. The Zephyrians sold targeting data to slave raiders. The Kraxans rented their military to anyone who could pay. Even the Ethereal Collective profited from suffering while claiming moral superiority. Song walked to the laboratory's main window and looked out at the vast fleet preparing for battle. Ships from dozens of species flew alongside human vessels, all united by their shared suffering under Council rule. We gave them 50 years to prove that their system could create real peace and justice. Instead, they used us as enforcers while planning our eventual elimination. When we left, they revealed their true nature by enabling the worst genocide in galactic history. He turned back to face the assembled officers. Tomorrow, we broadcast our demands to every system in Council space. Total surrender of all military forces, immediate cessation of all genocidal activities, transfer of all war criminals to human custody for trial. And if they refuse, Dr. Ahn asked, then we remind the galaxy why they should have listened to us the first time. 18 hours later, the human fleet began its final approach to Council space. 3,000 ships moved in perfect formation, their quantum displacement weapons charged and ready. Behind the main battle fleet, support vessels carried emergency supplies for refugee populations and medical teams to treat the survivors of 4 years of chaos. The first shots of the Liberation War were fired at exactly 0800 Galactic Standard Time across 300 systems simultaneously. Captain Shin Jae-ho led the assault on Nexus Prime itself, the heart of Council power, while his ships appeared, from quantum space like avenging angels. The Council's defense fleet was massive but unprepared. They had grown comfortable over 4 years of facing only primitive resistance from genocidal victims. They had forgotten what it meant to fight an enemy with superior technology and unlimited determination. "Target the command ships first," Shin ordered as his fleet of 50 vessels faced off against 300 Council defenders. "Disable their coordination, then demand surrender." The human quantum displacement weapons fired in perfect synchronization. The Council's flagship simply vanished, along with its entire command crew. 2 heavy cruisers disappeared a second later. The remaining ships found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't understand against weapons they had no defense for. "This is Admiral Vex of the Council Defense Force," came a panicked transmission. "What have you done with our ships?" "They have been removed from this conflict," Shin replied calmly. "Surrender now and your remaining crews will be spared." But the Council forces were too proud and too shocked to surrender immediately. They opened fire with conventional energy weapons that struck human shields and disappeared harmlessly into quantum absorption fields. Return fire from the human fleet made another dozen ships vanish. Within 30 minutes, the defense of Nexus Prime collapsed. The surviving Council ships surrendered rather than face complete annihilation. Captain Shin's forces moved to secure the station while emergency teams prepared to treat civilian casualties. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. In the Vorthon heartland, Commander Lee Yuri led a liberation fleet that struck the Empire's slave camps with surgical precision. Her ships appeared directly above the harvesting facilities, where millions of beings were being drained of their life force. "This is Commander Lee Yuri of the Human Liberation Fleet," she broadcast to the terrified prisoners below. "You are free. Evacuation ships are moving to your position now." The Vorthon guards tried to use the prisoners as human shields, threatening to kill them if the human ships didn't withdraw. Lee's response was swift and decisive. Individual quantum displacement weapons targeted each guard with perfect accuracy, erasing them from existence while leaving the prisoners completely unharmed. Within hours, 3 million slaves were free and being transported to safety, while Vorthon military bases across 50 systems found themselves under attack by an enemy they couldn't fight. On the Craxon homeworld, the hegemony's leadership watched in shock as their purification fleets were systematically destroyed by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. Admiral Ko Min-woo's task force had struck every Craxon military installation simultaneously, crippling their ability to coordinate a defense. "This is impossible," the Craxon war leader transmitted from his fortress. "No species has this level of military coordination. Your technology violates the laws of physics." "Your understanding of physics was limited by Council restrictions," Ko replied. "We've had 4 years to develop without those limitations. Surrender now and your people will be allowed to live peacefully under the new galactic order." The Craxon response was predictable. They activated planetary defense systems and prepared to fight to the death rather than accept defeat. Ko's forces responded by targeting the defense systems with precision strikes that disabled them without harming civilian areas. But it was the ethereal collective that provided the most resistance. As the galaxy's oldest and supposedly wisest species, they couldn't accept that their careful plans had been ruined by the return of humanity. "Impossible," the collective's prime speaker transmitted from their crystal palace. "Humans were eliminated from the equation. Our projections showed their permanent exile from galactic affairs. Admiral Song Ki-tae himself led the assault on the ethereal homeworld, bringing the full weight of humanity's anger to bear on those who had orchestrated the current genocide. Your projections failed to account for human determination," Song replied as his ships surrounded the crystal cities where the ethereals floated in their energy forms. "You treated us like a variable to be controlled instead of people with free will. We are eternal beings with wisdom spanning millions of years. You are children, playing with forces beyond your comprehension. Song's voice carried the weight of 4 years of watching innocent species die. Your wisdom enabled genocide. Your eternity was built on stolen life force. Your comprehension was limited to profit and control. The Ethereal Collective's defense systems were the most advanced in the galaxy, built with technology accumulated over eons of existence. But they had been designed to fight conventional threats, not quantum displacement weapons that could erase matter from reality itself. When the Ethereals realized they couldn't win militarily, they tried one last desperate gambit. They activated ancient devices that began draining life force from every being in their system, planning to use that energy to power weapons capable of destroying the human fleet. Song's response was immediate and absolute. Every life-draining device vanished from existence, displaced to quantum space where they could never threaten anyone again. The ethereal leadership found themselves facing a choice: surrender, or face the same fate as their weapons. You cannot do this, the Prime Speaker protested. We are the foundation of galactic civilization. Without us, the galaxy will fall into chaos. The galaxy has been in chaos for 4 years because of you, Song replied. Your foundation was built on the suffering of others. It's time for a new foundation built on justice. Across the galaxy, the war was ending with shocking speed. Council forces found themselves facing an enemy that could appear anywhere, strike with impossible precision, and defend against any weapon they possessed. More importantly, they found themselves fighting alone while local populations rose up to support the human liberators. Dr. John Mi Young, monitoring the conflict from the Human Command Center, reported the results to President Seo Tae-young in real time. The resistance cells activated perfectly, she said, her voice filled with amazement. Every oppressed species in Council space is rising up simultaneously. The Vorthans are facing slave revolts on 300 worlds. The Kraxans are fighting independence movements in every conquered system. What about casualties? SEO asked grimly. Remarkably low on our side. The quantum displacement weapons allow us to remove enemy forces without collateral damage. Council military casualties are actually lower than expected because most are surrendering rather than face erasure. And civilian casualties? The Council forces have been too busy trying to fight us to continue their genocidal campaigns. For the first time in 4 years, no innocent species are being exterminated. 3 days after the war began, it was effectively over. The Council's military forces were destroyed or captured. Their leadership was in custody awaiting trial. Their territories were under human protection, while emergency aid flowed to the survivors of 4 years of genocide. But victory in war was only the beginning. The real challenge was building something better to replace the corrupt system that had enabled so much suffering. General Yu Hai-in oversaw the systematic dismantling of oppressive regimes across the galaxy. Unlike the old council, which had used committees and procedures to avoid taking action, the human approach was direct and decisive. Every species that participated in genocide will face justice, she announced from the rebuilt council chambers, on Nexus Prime. Every leader who enabled slavery will be tried for their crimes. Every system that profited from suffering will make reparations to their victims. The trials were swift but fair, with representatives from victim species serving, alongside human judges. The evidence was overwhelming in most cases, as the council species had kept detailed records of their crimes, never imagining they would be held accountable. The Vorthan Emperor was found guilty of genocide against 43 species and sentenced to quantum displacement, permanently exiled to a pocket dimension where he could contemplate his crimes without the ability to harm others. The Kraxan war leader faced similar charges and received the same sentence. But it was the trial of the Ethereal Collective's leadership that drew the most attention. These beings had presented themselves as wise and peaceful while orchestrating the worst genocide in galactic history. Im So-young, head of the new diplomatic corps, served as the primary prosecutor. Her opening statement was simple and devastating. The defendants claim they are ancient and wise, deserving of respect and deference. But wisdom is measured by actions, not age. These beings used their knowledge and influence to enable genocide, while maintaining an facade of peaceful neutrality. The evidence was overwhelming. The Ethereal Collective had planned the elimination of inferior species for decades, using humanity as unwitting enforcers until they could be eliminated as, well, When humans left, they had allowed chaos to return while profiting from the suffering of others. The sentence was unanimous: permanent quantum displacement for the leadership, with the surviving ethereal population placed under strict supervision to ensure they could never again manipulate galactic politics.